Have you ever really stopped to ask, what does a man actually give when he has sex with someone? It's not just about his body. It's not even about performance. What he's really offering, often without even knowing it, is his soul. A soul that's hungry to be seen, to be chosen, to feel like he matters. But that deep yearning doesn't show up in obvious ways. It shows up masked as desire, as lust, even as dominance. What we often think of as just physical, a touch, a kiss, a body against another, is actually spiritual. Because at the core of it, what a man really wants isn't sex. It's to be felt, to be seen, to be accepted as whole, even in the messiness of his brokenness. When a man kneels before a woman's body, it might look like he's chasing pleasure. But what he's really chasing is the tenderness he never received, the warmth he's been starving for. It's ancestral. It's emotional. It's never just about the act. Because when intimacy is genuine, when it strips away the layers and masks what it reveals, isn't lust, it's truth. Raw, unfiltered truth. And in that moment, everything changes. The armor breaks. The act becomes a portal into the deepest parts of who he is. Not the strong exterior, not the role he plays, but the part of him he hides even from himself. Carl Jung, the legendary psychoanalyst, didn't see desire as some simple biological drive. He saw it as a bridge connecting the conscious and unconscious. He once said, "Every act of intimacy reveals more than it appears." And that's exactly it. Real desire doesn't come from the body. It comes from the psyche, the soul. Every gesture, every craving, every seductive move, it all has roots that go far deeper than we realize. Sex is not just an act. It's an exchange of energy, of intention, of shadows. And when the wrong woman enters your life, sex doesn't nourish you. It drains you. It saps your energy, your focus, your strength sometimes without you even realizing it. It leaves you empty, not physically tired, but soul-level exhausted. In this video, we're diving into why that happens, why so many men walk away from a sexual experience feeling hollow. It's not about physical release, it's about spiritual depletion. Because when you give yourself to someone without awareness, without true connection, you're not just sharing a moment. You're giving away pieces of yourself sometimes for nothing more than a fleeting hit of validation. We hear all the time, the female body is a temple. And it is, but so is yours. And when two temples meet without reverence, without intention, the result isn't pleasure, it's chaos. You're not just having sex, you're opening portals, and not every portal leads to a good place. As we move deeper into this conversation, I want you to start seeing what's always been there, the things no one taught you how to interpret. Because when a man truly surrenders in intimacy, he's not just showing his body, he's revealing his soul, his fears, his insecurities, his hidden wounds. That fear of not being enough, that desperate need to feel chosen. It's all there, sitting quietly beneath the surface, waiting for one moment of intimacy to burst through. And that's more terrifying than any kind of physical exposure. Because in that moment, when the act stops being performance and becomes presence, the real man shows up. And sometimes that man is crumbling inside while his face stays composed. That's how deep it goes. The strongest men you know, the ones who walk tall, say all the right things and never show a crack. Many of them are holding themselves together with emotional glue. You'd never know it because the performance is polished. But underneath, there's a storm. That's why the mask doesn't fall from screaming or arguing. It dissolves in the quiet, in the stillness, in a single moment of intimacy where he feels seen. A soft touch, a pause, a glance. It can shatter a man more than any insult ever could, because it awakens what he's been hiding for years. Jung believed the unconscious is always speaking. But in intimacy, it screams. The body becomes a stage where the soul performs its unspoken grief. This is the secret reason why so many men suddenly pull away when things get too real. It's not because they don't care. It's because intimacy turns into a mirror, and they're not ready to face their own reflection. The collapse of masculine strength doesn't happen during some massive life crisis. It often starts with a single moment, one that slips through the cracks in his armor, a brush of skin, a gaze that lingers too long, a vulnerability that hits too close to home. And suddenly, something inside him begins to wake up. But that awakening, it's just the beginning. Most men were never taught what real intimacy means. They grew up believing that pleasing someone was about skill, about technique, about being good in bed, perform well, make her happy, get validation. But connection, the kind that touches the soul, goes far deeper than performance ever can. True pleasure isn't about control. It's about presence. When a man gives himself fully, not to impress, not to dominate, but to connect, something sacred happens. Jung called this the feminine within the man, that gentle, intuitive, feeling-based side that society teaches boys to suppress. But here's the paradox: when a man touches a woman with full presence, he's also touching that hidden part of himself. It's not just her body he's connecting with. It's his own sensitivity, his own truth, his own softness. Sacred sexuality doesn't start with technique. It begins in stillness, in silence, in listening without words. It's in those quiet moments that the real man appears, not the mask, not the performance, just him, raw, present, real. And when he's finally there, without pretending, without needing to prove anything, something ancient reawakens. A kind of pleasure no one ever taught him to expect, one that doesn't drain him but fills him. That's when sex transforms into healing. But let's be honest, many men aren't ready for that kind of vulnerability. A lot of guys say they want love, but what they really crave is approval. They want to be chosen, not just as a partner, but as a person. It's deeper than romance. It's a yearning that began long before they ever met her. Every time a man walks into a relationship with that invisible hunger to finally be seen, to finally matter, he risks losing himself. He starts performing. He adapts. He bends. He sacrifices his truth just to be accepted. You've seen him. The guy who's always there, always kind, always giving, and still somehow he's invisible. It's not that he's doing something wrong. It's that he's stuck in a loop, trying to earn affection instead of receiving it. His kindness isn't love. It's a silent plea to be noticed, to be wanted. And here's where things get dark. Because deep down, he starts expecting her to save him, to heal that gaping hole in his soul. But she can't. No one can. And when she inevitably disappoints, the mask of devotion turns into quiet resentment. That's when the real work begins. When a man stops asking, "Why won't she love me the way I need?" and starts asking, "Why do I feel like I need to prove I'm lovable in the first place?" Here's the brutal truth Jung left us with. What you do not make conscious will appear in your life as fate. And that's exactly what happens to so many men. They think they're choosing their partners, choosing their path. But really they're just repeating old wounds, reenacting trauma with different faces. Same loop, same ending. That's the shadow at work. The hidden part of a man, the wounded, rejected self that he's buried so deep he doesn't even realize it's calling the shots. It whispers in his choices. It pulls him toward the familiar pain. It sabotages intimacy before it even has a chance to grow. This is why relationships start feeling like minefields. Not because the other person is bad or broken, but because the pain inside him is still bleeding, and he shows up with strength on the outside while crumbling within. He reaches for a partner to fill a hole that can only be healed from within. In this silent battle, the body becomes one of two things: a fortress to hide behind or a bridge to finally feel again. It all depends on how a man chooses to meet intimacy as a threat to his ego or as an invitation to transform. And let's be clear, the shadow isn't made of what you hate. It's made of what you hide. That fear of not being enough, that terror of being vulnerable, that thirst to be chosen without having to perform. All of that is lodged in the unconscious, waiting for one honest moment to surface. Where does it rise up? In the moments that trigger memory. In the emotional mirror of real connection. In the choices we keep making that feel like just bad luck but are actually subconscious patterns screaming for attention. Every man at some point will project onto his partner what he hasn't yet found within himself. He'll look at her and without knowing it make her everything, the lover, the healer, the mother, the savior. But that's not love. That's the shadow in disguise. And here's the tragedy, when she fails to live up to that fantasy, and she always will because she's human, he turns cold. Contempt replaces desire. The same woman he once worshipped becomes the symbol of his disappointment. Why? Because he expected her to do something impossible to complete him. That kind of projection creates emotional prisons. Idealization always comes with collapse. The moment she makes a mistake or simply reveals her humanness, the illusion shatters. And what he thought was love turns into quiet bitterness. Because he wasn't really seeing her. He was seeing the reflection of his own brokenness. He was reaching for salvation outside of himself. And no woman, no matter how magical, can carry that burden. That's how so many men lose themselves in the chase for connection. They confuse chaos with passion. They mistake being needed for being loved. They turn presence into dependency. But here's the awakening. No partner can be the perfect mirror for a man who hasn't dared to face his own reflection. That work of seeing yourself fully in your rawest form begins alone, in the silence, in the shadows, in the willingness to ask, who am I when no one's watching? Most men spend their lives waiting to be validated, waiting for that soft voice, that tender look, that one moment that whispers, you're enough. But it never lasts. Because what comes from the outside will always fade. Real healing begins the day a man stops begging to be chosen and chooses himself. Self-knowledge isn't just reading quotes or nodding along to videos like this. It's a practice, a ritual, a relentless commitment to meet your inner world with presence, to stop running from the emptiness and sit with it, to listen, to feel, to be. Because only in that sacred stillness does the true masculine begin to rise, not as a performance, but as a presence. Intimacy stops being a stage. It becomes a mirror. Desire stops begging. It starts to invite. It's no longer a grasp for attention. It's an offering of truth. And when that happens, sexuality isn't an escape anymore. It's a return to wholeness, to self, to clarity. That's where real power lives. But be warned, not every woman is meant to walk through that doorway with you. Not every connection deserves your body, your energy, your soul. Sex, when done unconsciously, becomes a silent leak. Your life force drains and you don't even know why. You walk away, confused, fatigued, unmotivated, and you think it's just stress. But it's not. It's contamination. Spiritual, emotional, energetic. Because when you merge with someone, you're not just sharing skin. You're opening yourself to their story, their pain, their patterns, their unresolved wounds. If she's living in chaos, emotionally reactive, disconnected from herself, that energy doesn't stay on her side of the bed. It enters you. It alters you. And the cost is your clarity, your strength, your sense of direction. You walk out of the encounter less you than when you walked in. That's the part no one talks about. But now you know. You can no longer claim ignorance. You know that sex is not just sex. It's a spiritual exchange, a soul-to-soul ritual. And every time you say yes, you are choosing to heal or to be hollowed. So ask yourself honestly, How many times have you mistaken lust for love? Given your energy to someone who didn't even know how to love herself? How many times have you left the bed emptier than before? The answer may sting, but it might also set you free. Because from this moment forward, the choice is yours. Keep offering your soul to those who only want your body, or raise the standard and protect the sacred within you. If this reached something deep in you, drop a comment below with the line that hit hardest. And share this with the men still asleep. Because this isn't just about sex. It's about who you are when the lights are off and the mask is gone. This is about your return, your awakening, your truth.